The Human Mind and Dreams. A journey into sleep's hidden mysteries. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. Every single night without fail, you slip into a state so mysterious that science still struggles to fully explain it. Your body becomes paralyzed, your brain activity intensifies to levels rivaling wakefulness, and you begin to experience worlds that defy every law of physics and logic you know. You might find yourself flying through impossible landscapes, speaking with people who died years ago, or living entire lifetimes in what feels like minutes. This isn't science fiction. This is dreaming. And tonight, just like every night for your entire life, you will enter this strange theater of the mind once again. What you're about to discover is that dreams aren't just random neural noise or meaningless hallucinations during sleep. They are windows into the deepest workings of consciousness itself, revealing secrets about memory, emotion, creativity, and the very nature of what it means to be aware. The human mind during dreams operates according to rules so different from waking consciousness that understanding them requires us to question everything we think we know about thinking itself. Before we dive into the labyrinth of dream consciousness, we need to understand what the mind actually is when it's not dreaming. Most people use the words brain, mind, and consciousness interchangeably, but each describes a fundamentally different layer of who you are. The brain is structure, about 1.3 kilograms of tissue, neurons, chemicals, and electrical impulses. You can scan it, dissect it, measure its activity with extraordinary precision. The mind is what the brain does. It's not a place, it's a process. Thinking, remembering, imagining, deciding. It's the software running on the brain's hardware, the invisible choreographer organizing the dance of neural activity into coherent experience. And then there's consciousness, something else, entirely. Not what the system does, but what it feels like to be the system. It's the raw sense of being aware, the undeniable fact that there is something it's like to be you. The mind sits between brain and consciousness, serving as the layer where experience is organized, where patterns form, where the chaotic flood of sensory information is transformed into a navigable model of reality. From an evolutionary perspective, minds didn't evolve to solve abstract mathematical equations or compose poetry, though they've become capable of both. They evolved to help organisms survive in an unpredictable world. A mind lets you simulate reality internally before acting on it externally. It lets you imagine consequences, plan strategies, hesitate when danger lurks, and learn from mistakes without having to repeat them. This capacity replaced blind reflex with informed decision-making, giving certain organisms like our ancestors a massive survival advantage. But the mind didn't stop at basic survival functions. Over millions of years, it became a space for memory that stretches across decades, language that can describe things that don't exist, reflection that turns awareness back on itself, and creativity that recombines experiences into entirely new forms. The mind became the place where we carry not just a model of the world, but a model of ourselves moving through that world across time. Yet we must remember that we don't experience reality directly. We experience it through the mind's interpretation of it, filtered by attention, shaped by emotion, colored by memory and expectation. Every mind builds its own version of the world and lives inside that construction. Two people can walk through the same room and have completely different experiences of it, not because the room changed, but because their minds processed it differently. And the mind is never static. It changes with every experience, learns from every interaction, rewires itself based on what proves useful or harmful. The patterns of neural connectivity that define your mental landscape today are different from what they were a year ago, and they'll be different again a year from now. The mind you have is not the mind you were born with, nor the mind you'll die with. It's a flowing, evolving system that learns to reorganize itself throughout your entire lifetime. So what is the mind, really? It's not your thoughts, not your memories, not your identity. It's the system that holds them all together long enough for you to say the word me and mean something coherent by it. You can't see the mind directly, but everything you see through its lens. Understanding what the mind is becomes crucial when we turn our attention to dreaming, because dreams reveal the mind operating under entirely different rules than those governing waking consciousness. Dreams emerge from the same neural architecture that produces your waking thoughts, but they do so when that architecture is partially disconnected from external sensory input and freed from the logical constraints that normally govern conscious experience. To understand how this happens, we need to explore where minds came from in the first place, because the capacity to dream is built into the very foundations of how awareness itself evolved. The earliest forms of life had no thoughts, no memories, no dreams. A jellyfish pulses through water without a brain, responding to basic stimuli through simple reflexes. A worm withdraws from light, without needing to understand what light is or why withdrawal might be beneficial. These organisms exist in a state of pure reactivity, their behavior determined entirely by immediate environmental triggers and hardwired response patterns. But eventually, this reactive approach to survival wasn't enough. As environments became more complex and competition more fierce, evolution began favoring organisms capable of something more sophisticated than mere reaction. The key innovation was anticipation, the ability to move toward food before directly sensing it, to avoid danger before experiencing pain, to prepare for threats that hadn't yet materialized. This shift from reaction to prediction represents the beginning of what we recognize as mind. Nervous systems evolved to process increasingly complex information about the environment and the organism's internal state. Simple light-detecting cells became image-forming eyes capable of tracking movement and recognizing patterns. Basic reflexes developed into flexible response systems that could be modified by experience. Most importantly, some organisms began building internal maps of their environment, allowing them to navigate through space and anticipate future conditions based on past experience. These internal maps were the foundation of what we now call mental modeling, the ability to run simulations of possible futures before committing to action in the real world. An organism with this capacity could imagine multiple scenarios, evaluate their likely outcomes, and choose behaviors based on predicted consequences rather than immediate stimuli. This represented a quantum leap in survival capability, transforming trial-and-error learning into strategic thinking. With time, these modeling systems grew more sophisticated. Organisms gained not just the ability to map their environment, but to map themselves within that environment. They developed what we might call proto-self-awareness, a sense of being a distinct entity moving through space and time with particular needs, capabilities, and vulnerabilities. Memory systems evolved to store successful strategies and avoid repeating costly mistakes. The capacity for imagination emerged as these internal models became rich enough to support counterfactual thinking. Instead of just modeling what is, minds began modeling what could be, what might have been, what should be avoided. This ability to think beyond immediate reality opened up new dimensions of experience that would eventually blossom into the full complexity of human consciousness. Awareness itself emerged not all at once, but in stages, each building on the previous developments. From raw sensation came perception, the ability to recognize patterns and extract meaning from sensory data. From perception came memory, the capacity to store and retrieve information across time. From memory came imagination, the power to recombine stored experiences into novel scenarios. And from imagination came self-awareness, the remarkable ability to turn the modeling system back on itself and create a representation of the representing system. The mind wasn't built in a moment of divine inspiration or evolutionary accident. It accumulated layer by layer, function by function, each new capability selected for because it offered some advantage in the endless struggle for survival and reproduction. What began as simple chemical reactions to environmental stimuli eventually became the foundation for the rich inner world of human experience, including our nightly journeys into the realm of dreams. Understanding this evolutionary history helps us appreciate why dreaming exists at all. Dreams didn't evolve as a luxury or an accident. They emerged because minds needed a way to process, organize, and integrate the massive amounts of information they were learning to handle. The sleeping brain doesn't shut down. It shifts into a different mode of operation, one that prioritizes internal processing over external awareness. When we dream, we're witnessing the mind's most ancient functions operating in their purest form. The dreaming mind creates, explores, and experiments without the constraints of physical reality or logical consistency. It takes the day's experiences and weaves them together with memories, emotions, and imaginative elements to create narratives that often feel more vivid and emotionally powerful than waking life itself. This brings us to a fundamental question about the nature of dreaming consciousness. If the mind evolved to help organisms navigate reality successfully, why does it spend so much time creating experiences that have no direct relationship to external reality? Why do we dream of flying when we cannot fly, of speaking with the dead when they cannot respond, of scenarios that violate every law of physics we understand? The answer lies in understanding that the dreaming mind serves different functions than the waking mind. While waking consciousness focuses on immediate survival needs and goal-directed behavior, dreaming consciousness appears to serve longer-term functions related to memory consolidation, emotional processing, creative problem-solving, and mental maintenance. Dreams are not failed attempts to model reality accurately. They are successful attempts to model reality creatively. During sleep, the brain enters a state that neuroscientists call rapid eye movement sleep, or REM sleep. This is when most vivid dreaming occurs, though dreams can happen during other sleep stages as well. During REM sleep, several remarkable things happen simultaneously. The brain becomes almost as active as it is during waking, with neurons firing in complex patterns that generate the rich sensory and emotional experiences we recognize as dreams. At the same time, the body becomes effectively paralyzed, with motor neurons shut down to prevent us from acting out our dreams physically. This paralysis is so complete that people awakened during REM sleep often report feeling temporarily unable to move, a phenomenon that can be quite disorienting for those who experience it consciously. Most intriguingly, the brain's chemical environment changes dramatically during REM sleep. Levels of norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin drop significantly, while acetylcholine increases. This chemical shift appears to facilitate the kind of loose, associative thinking that characterizes dream consciousness, where logical constraints are relaxed and unusual connections between ideas become possible. The visual cortex becomes highly active during dreams, generating the rich imagery that makes dream experiences feel so real. Yet this imagery is not coming from external visual input, since our eyes are closed and we're often in complete darkness. Instead, the brain is generating visual experiences entirely from internal sources, drawing on stored memories and creating novel combinations of visual elements. Similarly, the auditory cortex produces the sounds we hear in dreams, from conversations with dream characters to music that may be more beautiful than anything we've ever heard while awake. These sounds, like the visual imagery, are entirely generated by the brain itself, demonstrating the mind's remarkable capacity to create rich sensory experiences without any external sensory input. The emotional centers of the brain, particularly the amygdala and other limbic structures, are highly active during dreams, which explains why dream experiences are often so emotionally intense. We may feel terror, joy, love, or anger in dreams with an intensity that exceeds most waking experiences. These emotions are not pale shadows of real feelings. They are real neurochemical events that can affect our mood and behavior even after we wake up. Memory systems behave very differently during dreams than during waking consciousness. While we're dreaming, our ability to form new episodic memories is significantly impaired, which is why most dreams are forgotten shortly after waking. At the same time, the brain appears to be actively processing and consolidating memories from recent experiences, integrating them with older memories in ways that can lead to new insights and creative solutions. This memory processing aspect of dreaming may explain why dreams often feel familiar even when they depict impossible scenarios. The brain is drawing on real memory fragments and recombining them in novel ways. You might dream of flying through your childhood neighborhood, combining the memory of that place with a sensation of movement through space, even though you never actually flew there. The sense of self behaves very strangely in dreams. Sometimes you experience dreams from your normal first-person perspective, seeing and acting as yourself. Other times you might observe yourself from outside, as if watching a movie of your own life. You might even experience being someone else entirely, taking on different identities, ages, or characteristics while still maintaining some sense of being you. This fluidity of identity in dreams reveals something profound about the constructed nature of the self in general. The sense of being a continuous, unified person is actually an ongoing achievement of the waking mind, one that requires constant work to maintain. When this work is relaxed during sleep, the boundaries of selfhood become much more flexible and permeable. Time operates according to entirely different rules in dreams. You might experience what feels like hours or even days of dream time in a sleep period that lasts only minutes. Conversely, you might have a brief dream that feels like it lasted only seconds but actually occurred during a long REM period. The brain's normal timekeeping mechanisms are altered during sleep, allowing for these temporal distortions that would be impossible during waking consciousness. Causality, the logical relationship between cause and effect that governs waking experience, breaks down completely in dreams. Events can happen without causes, effects can precede their causes, and contradictory things can be simultaneously true. You might dream of being late for an important meeting while also being perfectly on time, or of being in two different places at once without any sense of contradiction. Language in dreams reveals fascinating aspects of how the mind processes meaning and communication. Dream conversations often feel meaningful and emotionally significant, even when the actual words spoken don't make logical sense or would be nonsensical if transcribed. The brain appears to be processing the emotional and social significance of communication, rather than its literal content. Reading and writing in dreams present particular challenges for the dreaming mind. Many people report that text in dreams appears blurry, changes when they look away and back again, or contains words that don't actually exist. This suggests that the brain regions responsible for processing written language operate differently during dream consciousness than during waking. The creativity displayed in dreams is often remarkable. People report having dreams that contain original music, poetry, visual art, or solutions to problems they've been working on while awake. Some famous discoveries and artistic creations have reportedly originated in dreams, suggesting that the relaxed logical constraints of dream consciousness can facilitate certain types of creative insight. Yet dreams are not purely random or meaningless. They often reflect the dreamer's current concerns, fears, desires, and relationships. While the specific content of a dream might be bizarre or impossible, the underlying emotional themes often relate directly to the dreamer's waking life. This suggests that dreams serve important psychological functions related to emotional processing and integration. The phenomenon of lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming while still remaining asleep, provides unique insights into the nature of dream consciousness. Lucid dreamers can sometimes exert conscious control over their dream experiences, choosing to fly, change the dream scenery, or interact with dream characters in deliberate ways. This demonstrates that some aspects of waking consciousness can be maintained even within the altered state of dreaming. Nightmares represent a particularly intense form of dream experience where fear and anxiety dominate the emotional landscape. While unpleasant, nightmares may serve important psychological functions, allowing the mind to rehearse responses to threatening situations or to process traumatic experiences in a safe context. The fact that we can wake up from nightmares suggests that the mind maintains some capacity to escape from dream experiences that become too overwhelming. Recurring dreams, where similar themes or scenarios repeat across multiple sleep episodes, suggest that the dreaming mind is working on unresolved issues or processing particularly significant experiences. These dreams often continue until the underlying psychological work is completed, at which point they typically stop recurring naturally. Cultural and individual differences in dream content reveal how personal experience and cultural background influence the raw material from which dreams are constructed. While the basic mechanisms of dreaming appear to be universal across human cultures, the specific symbols, scenarios, and themes that appear in dreams vary significantly based on individual experience and cultural context. The relationship between dreams and mental health is complex and significant. Changes in dream patterns often accompany various psychological conditions, and dream content can provide insights into a person's emotional state and psychological well-being. Some therapeutic approaches work directly with dream content to help people understand and resolve psychological difficulties. As we age, our dreams change in characteristic ways. Children often have more intense and emotionally vivid dreams than adults, possibly because their developing brains are processing enormous amounts of new information and experience. Elderly individuals may dream more frequently about past events and deceased loved ones, suggesting that dreams continue to serve memory-related functions throughout the lifespan. The question of whether other animals dream has fascinated researchers for decades. Evidence suggests that many mammals experience REM sleep and display behaviors consistent with dreaming, such as movement and vocalizations during sleep that appear to relate to their waking activities. This suggests that the capacity for dreaming may be much older than human consciousness itself. Dreams also raise profound philosophical questions about the nature of reality and consciousness. If the brain can create experiences during dreams that feel completely real while they're happening, how can we be certain that waking consciousness provides us with accurate information about external reality? This question has puzzled philosophers for centuries and continues to challenge our understanding of perception and knowledge. The study of dreams has practical implications for understanding consciousness, memory, creativity, and mental health. As neuroscience techniques become more sophisticated, researchers are gaining increasingly detailed insights into the neural mechanisms that generate dream experiences. This research not only helps us understand dreams themselves, but also provides valuable information about how consciousness works more generally. Understanding dreams can also enhance our appreciation for the remarkable capabilities of the human mind. Every night, without any conscious effort or external input, your brain creates rich, immersive experiences that can be emotionally powerful, creatively inspiring, and deeply meaningful. This capacity for internal world creation demonstrates the extraordinary generative power of consciousness itself. The fact that we spend roughly 1/3 of our lives asleep, and a significant portion of that time dreaming, suggests that these experiences serve essential functions for mental and emotional well-being. Rather than being a waste of time or a mere byproduct of brain maintenance, dreaming appears to be an integral part of how consciousness processes, integrates, and makes sense of experience. As you prepare for sleep tonight and every night thereafter, you can appreciate that you're about to embark on a journey into one of consciousness's most mysterious territories. Your dreaming mind will take the experiences, memories, emotions, and concerns of your waking life and weave them into narratives that may be strange, beautiful, frightening, or enlightening. These dreams are not separate from your waking consciousness, but are another expression of the same remarkable system that allows you to think, feel, remember, and imagine. The dreams you'll have tonight are uniquely yours, created by your individual brain with its particular patterns of connection and its specific store of experiences and memories. Yet they also connect you to the universal human experience of dreaming, a capacity that has been part of our species for as long as we have been capable of consciousness itself. In the end, dreams remind us that consciousness is far more flexible, creative, and mysterious than our waking experience might suggest. They reveal a mind capable of transcending the normal constraints of logic, physics, and identity to create experiences that are impossible yet meaningful, unreal yet emotionally true. As you drift off to sleep, you can rest in the knowledge that your dreaming mind will continue its ancient work of processing, creating, and exploring the infinite landscape of human consciousness. Part 2. Dreams and the landscape of sleep. The mind, with all its wiring and wonder, does not rest when consciousness fades. Instead, it transforms. What we call sleep is not the shutdown of the mind, but its shift into a different operating mode, one where the usual rules dissolve and new possibilities emerge. Dreams are the mind's nightly theater, a space where logic bends, time stutters, and the impossible feels inevitable. Yet for all their strangeness, dreams emerge from the same neural architecture that shapes waking thought, operating under different constraints, serving functions we are only beginning to understand. When you fall asleep, your brain does not simply power down like a machine switching off. Instead, it cycles through distinct phases, each with its own rhythm and purpose. During non-REM sleep, the mind consolidates memories, filing experiences from the day into longer-term storage. Neural connections strengthen or weaken based on usage. The brain essentially edits itself, keeping what matters and discarding what doesn't. But it is during REM sleep, when rapid eye movements flicker beneath closed lids, that dreams flourish most vividly. In REM sleep, the brain becomes almost as active as it is during waking hours, yet the body remains paralyzed, locked in stillness. This paralysis is not accidental, but protective, preventing the dreamer from acting out the wild scenarios unfolding in their mind. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and self-awareness, dims its activity. This creates the perfect conditions for dreams, a highly active brain freed from the constraints of rational thought and physical movement. The neurochemistry of dreaming is equally fascinating. During REM sleep, levels of norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin drop significantly, while acetylcholine surges. This chemical shift explains many of dreams' characteristic features. The reduction in norepinephrine and dopamine may account for the weakened sense of self-awareness and logical thinking in dreams. The surge in acetylcholine, meanwhile, enhances the brain's ability to form vivid, often bizarre mental imagery. It is as if the mind trades rationality for creativity, logic for imagination. Dreams serve multiple vital functions, though their exact purpose remains a subject of scientific debate. One leading theory suggests that dreams help process emotions, particularly those that are difficult or traumatic. During sleep, the brain may replay emotional experiences in a safe context, allowing the mind to work through feelings without the stress hormones that would accompany such experiences during waking life. This emotional processing function may explain why dreams often feel so intensely emotional, even when their content seems nonsensical. Another function of dreams appears to be memory consolidation, but not in a simple replay fashion. Instead, dreams seem to extract the gist or meaning from experiences, integrating new information with existing knowledge in creative ways. This process can lead to insights and problem-solving breakthroughs. Many scientists, artists, and inventors have reported that solutions to complex problems came to them in dreams, suggesting that the dreaming mind excels at making novel connections between disparate pieces of information. Dreams also serve as a kind of internal simulation, allowing the mind to practice responses to various scenarios without real-world consequences. This rehearsal function may have evolutionary advantages, helping organisms prepare for potential threats or opportunities. In dreams, you might find yourself navigating social conflicts, escaping from danger, or exploring new environments. While the content is often fantastical, the underlying process of mental simulation may strengthen neural pathways related to problem-solving and adaptation. The content of dreams reflects the mind's attempt to make sense of random neural activity, weaving disparate brain signals into coherent narratives. This is why dreams often incorporate elements from recent experiences, deep memories, and current concerns, blending them in ways that would be impossible in waking life. The dreaming mind is remarkably creative in this narrative construction, often producing stories that feel meaningful even when they defy logic. Personal concerns and emotional states heavily influence dream content. If you are anxious about an upcoming event, your dreams may feature themes of being unprepared or facing obstacles. If you are processing grief, dreams may bring encounters with lost loved ones. The mind seems to use the dream state to work through unresolved issues, though often in symbolic or metaphorical ways rather than literal representations. The phenomenon of recurring dreams suggests that some issues require repeated processing. These dreams often persist until the underlying concern is resolved or the dreamer gains new perspective on the situation. The repetitive nature of these dreams indicates that the mind continues to grapple with certain experiences or emotions until they are adequately integrated. In dreams, the sense of identity becomes fluid. You might dream of being yourself, but in different circumstances, or you might experience life from entirely different perspectives. This fluidity of identity in dreams reveals something profound about the nature of the self. It suggests that our sense of being a consistent, unified person is more constructed than we typically realize. The dreaming mind can easily shift between different versions of the self, indicating that identity itself may be more flexible and contextual than we assume during waking life. Time operates differently in dreams. Minutes can feel like hours, or entire lifetimes can seem to unfold in moments. This temporal distortion occurs because the brain regions responsible for tracking time and maintaining linear narrative are less active during dreaming. Without these constraints, the mind can experience events in any order, compress vast experiences into brief moments, or stretch simple actions across what feels like eternity. The physics of dream worlds also differ from waking reality. Objects can transform spontaneously, people can appear and disappear, and the laws of gravity may not apply. These impossibilities feel natural within the dream because the brain regions that normally monitor for logical consistency are less active. The dreaming mind accepts contradictions and impossibilities that would immediately be flagged as errors during waking consciousness. Lucid dreaming represents a unique state where some degree of waking awareness penetrates the dream state. In lucid dreams, the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming and may even gain some control over the dream content. This phenomenon demonstrates that consciousness exists on a spectrum rather than as a simple on-off switch. Lucid dreamers can sometimes direct their dreams like directors of a private movie, exploring impossible worlds with the knowledge that they are safely within their own minds. The ability to lucid dream varies among individuals and can be developed through practice, and looking for inconsistencies that would indicate a dream state. Over time, this habit can carry over into dreams, triggering awareness when the usual logical inconsistencies appear. Nightmares represent the darker side of dreaming, where the mind's emotional processing function can become overwhelming. These intense, frightening dreams often reflect deep anxieties, traumas, or unresolved conflicts. While disturbing, nightmares may serve an important function by forcing the mind to confront and process difficult emotions or memories. The key difference between nightmares and regular dreams is often the intensity of negative emotion and the dreamer's sense of helplessness within the dream scenario. Children tend to have more vivid dreams and nightmares than adults, possibly because their developing brains are more active during sleep and their emotional regulation systems are still maturing. As people age, they often report fewer and less vivid dreams, though this may be partly due to changes in sleep patterns and decreased time spent in REM sleep. Cultural factors also influence dream content and interpretation. Different societies have varying beliefs about the significance of dreams, ranging from viewing them as meaningless neural static to considering them messages from spiritual realms. These cultural frameworks can shape both how dreams are remembered and how they are understood by the dreamer. The study of dreams has revealed much about the flexibility and creativity of the human mind. Dreams demonstrate that consciousness is not a single, monolithic state, but rather a collection of processes that can operate independently and recombine in novel ways. The dreaming mind shows us what happens when the usual constraints of logic, physics, and social convention are relaxed, revealing the underlying creativity and adaptability of human cognition. Dreams also highlight the interconnected nature of memory, emotion, and imagination. In dreams, these typically separate mental functions blend seamlessly, creating experiences that can feel more vivid and meaningful than waking life. This integration suggests that the boundaries between different aspects of mental experience are more fluid than we typically assume. The paradox of dreaming is that it represents both the mind at its most constrained, locked within sleep paralysis and neurochemical limitation, and at its most free, unbound by the rules of reality or logic. This duality reflects a deeper truth about consciousness itself, that it operates within biological constraints, while simultaneously transcending them through imagination and creativity. Dreams remind us that the mind is not merely a passive receiver of experience, but an active creator of reality. Every night, without effort or intention, the brain constructs entire worlds populated with characters, emotions, and narratives. These nightly creations demonstrate the mind's remarkable capacity for synthesis and storytelling, its ability to weave meaning from chaos and find patterns in randomness. Perhaps most importantly, dreams reveal that the mind never truly rests. Even in sleep, it continues its essential work of processing, integrating, and preparing for the challenges ahead. The dreaming mind is not an escape from reality, but another way of engaging with it, a parallel process of understanding and adaptation that complements our waking consciousness. Now we're part 3, the theater of sleep. When consciousness fades and the world goes dark, something extraordinary begins. You slip beneath the surface of waking awareness into a realm where the mind reveals its most mysterious nature. Sleep is not the absence of mind, but its transformation. And within sleep lies one of the most enigmatic phenomena in all of neuroscience, the dream. The sleeping brain is not quiet. If anything, it becomes more active, more electric, more alive in ways that daylight consciousness never achieves. During REM sleep, neural activity surges to levels that rival or exceed waking states. Yet the body lies paralyzed, locked in stillness, while the mind creates entire worlds from nothing but memory and imagination. What happens in this strange theater of sleep? The dreaming mind operates by rules that defy logic. Time bends and folds. Space becomes fluid. Identity shifts like water. You can be yourself and someone else simultaneously. You can fly through landscapes that never existed, have conversations with people long dead, experience emotions more intense than anything waking life provides. The neurochemistry of dreaming is as remarkable as its content. During REM sleep, the brain reduces production of norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin, the neurotransmitters that typically anchor us to linear thought and external reality. Meanwhile, acetylcholine floods the system, particularly in areas responsible for memory consolidation and emotional processing. This chemical cocktail creates the perfect conditions for the mind to weave together fragments of experience into narratives that feel completely real. But dreams are not random neural noise. They serve purposes that scientists are only beginning to understand. The dreaming mind appears to be a master editor, sorting through the day's experiences, deciding what to file away, what to discard, what to integrate. It processes emotions too intense or complex for waking consciousness to handle. It rehearses scenarios, both probable and impossible, training the mind for situations it may never encounter. In dreams, the boundaries between self and world dissolve. You don't just observe the dream. You are the dream. Every character, every landscape, every twist of plot emerges from the same neural networks that create your sense of self. The dreaming mind is simultaneously the author, director, actor, and audience of its own productions. Consider the phenomenon of lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware they are dreaming while still within the dream. In these moments, consciousness achieves something remarkable. It maintains awareness while allowing the unconscious to continue its work. The lucid dreamer can observe the mind creating reality in real time, watching thoughts become landscapes, emotions become weather, memories become characters in an unfolding story. The content of dreams often reflects the mind's deepest concerns, its unresolved conflicts, its hidden desires. But dreams also transcend personal experience. They tap into something larger, more universal. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of symbols and archetypes that appear across cultures and throughout history. The same images, the same narratives, the same emotional patterns emerge in dreams regardless of the dreamer's background or beliefs. Dreams also reveal the mind's extraordinary capacity for creativity. Musicians dream symphonies. Scientists dream solutions to problems that have puzzled them for years. Artists dream images that become masterpieces. The dreaming mind, freed from the constraints of logic and possibility, becomes a laboratory for innovation, a space where new connections form and impossible combinations become suddenly clear. Yet dreams can also be prisons. Nightmares trap the dreamer in cycles of terror and helplessness. Recurring dreams replay the same scenarios night after night, as if the mind is stuck on a problem it cannot solve. Post-traumatic stress creates dreams that blur the line between memory and imagination, past and present, making sleep a battleground rather than a refuge. The mystery deepens when we consider that dreaming is not unique to humans. Most mammals show signs of REM sleep and dreamlike brain activity. Dogs twitch and vocalize as if chasing dream rabbits. Rats replay the mazes they ran during the day. Even some birds and reptiles show patterns that suggest dreaming states. This suggests that dreaming is not a luxury of human consciousness, but a fundamental feature of complex nervous systems. What does this tell us about the nature of mind itself? Dreams reveal that consciousness is far more flexible than we typically imagine. The waking mind feels solid, continuous, bound by the laws of physics and logic. But the dreaming mind shows us that consciousness is actually fluid, creative, capable of generating entire realities from the raw materials of memory and emotion. Dreams also demonstrate that the mind is not passive, but actively constructive. Even in sleep, even without external input, the brain continues to create meaning, to tell stories, to make sense of its own activity. The dreaming mind is not receiving reality. It is generating it. Perhaps most remarkably, dreams show us that the boundaries we take for granted in waking life, between self and other, between past and future, between possible and impossible, are not fixed features of consciousness but temporary constructions. In dreams, these boundaries dissolve, revealing a mind capable of experiencing reality in ways that ordinary consciousness cannot access. The study of dreams has also revealed something profound about memory and learning. The dreaming brain appears to be consolidating memories, not just storing them, but integrating them, finding patterns and connections that were invisible during waking experience. Students who sleep after learning perform better than those who stay awake. The mind that dreams is a mind that learns more deeply, more creatively. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of sleep and dreams, we discover that these nightly journeys into the unconscious are not escapes from reality, but explorations of it. The dreaming mind reveals aspects of consciousness that waking awareness typically conceals. It shows us a mind unbound by the usual constraints, capable of creating, destroying, and recreating entire worlds with nothing but neural activity. In the theater of sleep, the mind performs its most mysterious and perhaps most essential work. It processes the past, prepares for the future, and in the space between waking and sleeping, reveals the extraordinary plasticity and creativity that lies at the heart of human consciousness. Part 4. The Architecture of Sleep and the Theater of Dreams. Sleep arrives like a tide, washing over consciousness in waves that few of us ever pause to examine. We surrender to it nightly, trusting our minds to navigate territories we cannot consciously map. But what happens when awareness dims and the familiar self dissolves into something stranger, more fluid? more alive with possibility. What unfolds in those hidden hours reveals one of the most extraordinary capacities of the human mind: the ability to create entire worlds from nothing but neural electricity and memory's scattered fragments. The transition into sleep is not a simple switch from on to off. It is a carefully orchestrated descent through layers of consciousness, each governed by different rules, each offering different gifts to the mind that inhabits them. As wakefulness fades, the brain begins to shift its rhythms, moving from the rapid beta waves of active thought to the slower alpha waves of relaxation, then deeper still into the theta rhythms that mark the threshold between conscious and unconscious processing. But it is in REM sleep, that most mysterious of states, where the true magic unfolds. Here, in a phase discovered only in the 1950s, the sleeping brain becomes almost as active as the waking one. Eyes dart rapidly beneath closed lids, tracking movements in landscapes that exist only in the mind's theater. The body lies paralyzed, locked in a protective stillness that prevents us from acting out the dramas playing behind our eyes. And in this state, suspended between motion and stillness, between sense and nonsense, dreams begin to bloom. Dreams are perhaps the mind's most radical experiment with reality. In the waking world, we are bound by physics, by logic, by the stubborn consistency of cause and effect. But in dreams, these constraints dissolve. Time becomes elastic, bending and folding in ways that would make Einstein weep. Identity becomes fluid. You might be yourself, but different, or someone else entirely, or multiple people at once. The dead return to life. The impossible becomes mundane. And through it all, the dreaming mind accepts these impossibilities with the calm confidence of someone walking through their own living room. What are dreams, really? Scientists have proposed many theories, each capturing some aspect of this nightly phenomenon. Some suggest dreams are the brain's housekeeping service, sorting through the day's experiences, filing important memories and discarding the trivial. Others see them as a kind of virtual reality training ground, where the mind rehearses responses to potential threats and challenges. Still others believe dreams serve as emotional processing centers, allowing us to work through conflicts and desires that conscious thought finds too difficult to face directly. But perhaps dreams are something more fundamental than any single function could explain. Perhaps they reveal something essential about the nature of consciousness itself. In dreams, we see the mind's remarkable capacity for synthesis and creation. The dreaming brain takes fragments of memory, sensation, and emotion, and weaves them into narratives that feel completely real while we experience them. It creates characters with their own motivations, landscapes with their own physics, stories with their own internal logic. Consider the phenomenology of dreaming, the actual felt experience of being inside a dream. You are simultaneously the protagonist of the story and its unwitting author, creating plot twists you don't see coming, encountering characters whose words surprise you, navigating environments that your own mind is constructing in real time. It is as if consciousness splits into multiple layers: the dreamer who experiences, the dreamer who creates, and sometimes, in lucid dreams, the dreamer who realizes that both experiences are happening within the same mind. The visual richness of dreams is particularly striking. In the absence of external light, the mind generates its own illumination. Colors appear more vivid than in waking life. Faces emerge with startling clarity, and scenes unfold with a cinematic quality that no external camera could capture. The dreaming brain activates the same visual cortex areas that process sight during waking hours, but it does so using internally generated signals rather than input from the eyes. In essence, dreams prove that the mind can see without light, hear without sound, and feel without touch. Emotions in dreams carry a special intensity, often magnified beyond their waking equivalents. Fear becomes terror, joy becomes ecstasy, and longing becomes an ache so profound it can wake you gasping. This emotional amplification suggests that dreams may serve as a kind of emotional laboratory where feelings can be experienced in their purest, most concentrated form. The dreaming mind strips away the social constraints and rational filters that moderate emotion during waking hours, allowing us to feel with an intensity that would be overwhelming in daily life. The narrative structure of dreams reveals another fascinating aspect of the mind's architecture. Dreams rarely unfold as simple linear stories. Instead, they jump between scenes, compress time, and blend multiple storylines in ways that mirror the associative nature of memory itself. A dream might begin in your childhood home, shift to your current workplace, and end in a place that exists nowhere but in the dream's own geography. These transitions, which would seem jarring in waking narrative, feel perfectly natural within the dream's internal logic. Language in dreams presents its own mysteries. Dreamers report having conversations in languages they don't speak, reading text that changes when they look away, and understanding messages that make perfect sense within the dream but dissolve into nonsense upon waking. This suggests that the dreaming mind operates with a kind of metalinguistic understanding, grasping meaning at a level deeper than words while simultaneously generating the surface appearance of communication. The social world of dreams is equally revealing. The people who populate our dreams are often composites, blending features and characteristics from multiple real individuals into single dream characters. Sometimes we dream of people we haven't thought about in years, suggesting that the dreaming mind has access to memory stores that remain largely hidden during waking hours. These dream characters often possess their own apparent autonomy, saying things that surprise the dreamer and acting in ways that seem independent of conscious intention. Nightmares, those darker cousins of ordinary dreams, reveal the mind's capacity to generate genuine terror from nothing but neural activity. In nightmares, the same creative mechanisms that produce pleasant dreams turn threatening, crafting scenarios of danger and helplessness that can leave lasting emotional impressions. Yet even nightmares serve important functions, allowing the mind to confront fears and anxieties in a safe environment where no real harm can come to the body. The phenomenon of lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware they are dreaming while still remaining asleep, opens up even more intriguing possibilities. Lucid dreamers report being able to consciously influence their dreams, flying at will, transforming frightening scenarios into pleasant ones, or using dreams as a space for creative exploration and problem solving. This suggests that consciousness is not simply absent during dreams, but can exist in modified forms that blur the boundaries between voluntary and involuntary mental activity. From an evolutionary perspective, the universal nature of dreaming across cultures and even across species suggests that this nightly theater serves vital functions. Every human culture has developed its own interpretations of dreams, from divine messages to psychological insights to glimpses of alternate realities. This universality implies that dreaming is not merely a curious byproduct of sleep, but an essential feature of how minds organize and process experience. The study of dreams has also revealed important truths about memory consolidation. During REM sleep, the brain appears to strengthen certain memories while allowing others to fade, essentially editing the vast amount of information encountered during waking hours into a more manageable and meaningful narrative. Dreams may be the subjective experience of this editing process, the mind's way of making sense of its own memory work. Recent neuroscientific research has begun to map the specific brain networks involved in dreaming, revealing that dream generation involves a complex interplay between multiple brain regions. The visual cortex creates the imagery, the emotional centers provide the feeling tone, and the frontal cortex attempts to weave everything into coherent narratives, albeit with the logical constraints typical of waking thought significantly relaxed. But perhaps the most profound revelation of dream research is what it tells us about the constructed nature of all consciousness. If the mind can create such convincing realities during sleep, using only internal resources, what does this say about the reality we experience while awake? Dreams demonstrate that consciousness is fundamentally creative. that the sense of experiencing a real world is something the mind actively constructs rather than passively receives. The boundary between dreaming and waking consciousness is not as sharp as we might assume. Throughout the day, the mind engages in various forms of mental simulation, imagining future scenarios, replaying past events, generating creative solutions to problems. In many ways, these waking mental activities share important features with dreaming. The difference is primarily one of degree and constraint, rather than fundamental mechanism. As we continue to explore the mysteries of sleep and dreams, we uncover layer after layer of the mind's remarkable architecture. Dreams reveal consciousness as a dynamic, creative force that transcends the simple processing of external information. They show us a mind capable of generating experiences so vivid and meaningful that they can influence waking behavior, inspire artistic creation, and provide insights that conscious thought alone might never achieve. In the end, our nightly journey into dreams serves as a reminder of just how extraordinary, ordinary consciousness really is. Every night, without effort or instruction, the mind creates worlds, populates them with characters, generates emotions and sensations, and weaves together stories that feel completely real to the one experiencing them. The human mind operates through layers far more complex than most people realize. While we sleep, our brains don't simply shut down. They transform into active, creative engines. During non-REM sleep, neural activity surges as the brain consolidates memories and processes emotions. But it's in REM sleep where something truly remarkable happens. The mind begins crafting vivid, emotionally intense narratives that seem to emerge from nowhere, yet follow the same neural pathways responsible for our waking thoughts. These dreams serve purposes that extend far beyond random neural firing. They function as emotional regulators, helping us process difficult experiences in a safe mental space. Dreams also act as memory consolidators, weaving new information into existing knowledge networks. Perhaps most intriguingly, they serve as problem-solving laboratories where the mind can experiment with solutions without real-world consequences. The phenomenon of lucid dreaming reveals just how malleable our consciousness can be. When dreamers become aware they're dreaming, they demonstrate the mind's ability to maintain conscious awareness within a completely fabricated reality. This highlights the fluid nature of consciousness itself. That line between waking and sleeping awareness is far thinner than we typically imagine. Dream experiences showcase the mind's remarkable capacity for synthesis and innovation. In dreams, identities can shift fluidly, time can move backward or skip entirely, and the laws of physics become mere suggestions. Yet these seemingly chaotic experiences often contain symbolic representations of our deepest concerns and desires, influenced by both personal history and cultural background. What dreams ultimately reveal is that consciousness and identity are far more flexible and constructed than they appear. The boundary between memory and imagination becomes blurred as the sleeping brain weaves together fragments of experience into coherent narratives. This process demonstrates the mind's ongoing effort to organize and make sense of experience, revealing consciousness as both profoundly creative and adaptively complex. The nightly theater of dreams represents an essential aspect of human cognition that illustrates both the remarkable creativity and the adaptive complexity of consciousness itself. Part 6. Dreams as the mind's virtual reality. Sleep arrives quietly, like curtains drawn across the theater of consciousness. Your breathing slows, your muscles relax, and the familiar world of waking life begins to fade. But the mind doesn't simply shut down. Instead, it enters something far more mysterious. A state where logic dissolves, where time bends, where you can fly through impossible landscapes or speak with people who died years ago. This is the realm of dreams, and it reveals something profound about the nature of consciousness itself. Dreams are perhaps the mind's most extraordinary creation, a nightly demonstration that reality, as we experience it, is far more fluid than we imagine. Every night, without instruction or effort. Your brain becomes a master storyteller, a director, a set designer, and an entire cast of characters all at once. It constructs elaborate narratives, complete with emotional depth, sensory detail, and plot twists that would make Hollywood screenwriters envious. You might find yourself in your childhood home, but the rooms are rearranged in impossible ways. You could be late for an exam you never studied for, feeling the familiar panic of unpreparedness, even though you graduated decades ago. Or perhaps you're having a conversation with a deceased relative, their voice and mannerisms so vivid that waking up feels like losing them all over again. What makes dreams so fascinating is not just their content, but their construction. During REM sleep, your brain is almost as active as when you're awake, but it's operating under entirely different rules. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and self-awareness, dims significantly. Meanwhile, the limbic system, which processes emotions and memories, becomes hyperactive. This creates the perfect conditions for the mind to weave together fragments of experience in ways that would seem absurd in waking life, yet feel completely natural within the dream. Dreams reveal that consciousness is not a fixed state, but a spectrum of possibilities. In dreams, your sense of self becomes malleable. You might be yourself, but different, older or younger, more confident, or more vulnerable. Sometimes you're not yourself at all, yet the experience still feels fundamentally yours. This fluidity suggests that identity itself is more flexible than we typically assume. The self that seems so solid and continuous in waking life is revealed in dreams to be a construction, a story the mind tells itself to maintain coherence. The emotional intensity of dreams offers another window into the mind's architecture. Fear in a nightmare can be more visceral than most waking fears. Love in a dream can feel more pure and overwhelming than many real relationships. This isn't because dream emotions are artificial, but because they're unfiltered by the rational mind's tendency to moderate and analyze. Dreams show us emotion in its raw form, untempered by social expectations or logical constraints. Memory plays a fascinating role in this nightly theater. Dreams often combine elements from recent experiences with fragments from years or even decades past. A conversation from yesterday might take place in your elementary school classroom, with your current boss speaking in your grandmother's voice. This isn't random chaos, but reveals how memory actually works. Rather than storing experiences like files in a cabinet, the mind creates associative networks, linking memories by emotion, theme, and significance, rather than chronological order. Dreams also demonstrate the mind's predictive nature. Many dreams involve scenarios of potential threat, challenge, or opportunity. You might dream of being chased, of failing at an important task, or of unexpected success. Some researchers suggest that dreams serve as a kind of virtual reality training system, allowing the mind to rehearse responses to various scenarios without real-world consequences. In this view, the anxiety dream about showing up to work naked isn't just random neuronal firing, but a way for the mind to process social fears and prepare for potential embarrassment. The sensory richness of dreams is particularly remarkable given that your eyes are closed and your body is largely paralyzed. Yet in dreams, you can see vivid colors, hear complex sounds, feel textures, and even experience tastes and smells. This reveals that perception is far more constructed than we typically realize. The mind doesn't just passively receive sensory input, it actively generates sensory experience. Dreams show us that the brain is perfectly capable of creating a full sensory world from memory and imagination alone. Perhaps most intriguingly, dreams occasionally become lucid. In these rare states, you become aware that you're dreaming while still remaining in the dream. Suddenly, you have conscious control over an unconscious process. You can choose to fly, to transform the landscape, to confront dream characters with the knowledge that they're products of your own mind. Lucid dreaming reveals consciousness as something that can fold back on itself, creating awareness within constructed reality, a kind of meta-experience that challenges our understanding of what it means to be conscious. The transition from dreaming to waking offers its own insights. That moment when you first open your eyes and the dream world dissolves can be disorienting. Sometimes the dream feels more real than the waking world you're returning to. This suggests that realness isn't an inherent property of experience, but something the mind assigns based on coherence and expectation. The dream felt real because, while you were in it, it was your reality. Dreams also reveal the social nature of consciousness. Even in the privacy of your own mind, you populate your dreams with other people. These dream characters can surprise you with their responses, challenge your assumptions, or offer insights you didn't know you possessed. This suggests that our sense of self is inherently relational, that even in isolation, the mind maintains an internal community of voices and perspectives. The fact that we dream at all points to something profound about consciousness. Dreams serve no obvious survival function in the immediate sense. They don't help you find food, avoid predators, or attract mates. Yet every mammal dreams, suggesting that this nightly journey into constructed reality serves some deeper purpose. Perhaps dreams are consciousness exploring its own possibilities, testing the boundaries of experience, or simply reveling in its own creative capacity. As you drift towards sleep each night, you're not just resting your body or consolidating memories. You're preparing to enter a state that reveals consciousness as far more creative, fluid, and mysterious than waking life suggests. Dreams show us that the mind is not just a processor of external reality, but a generator of entirely new realities, complete with their own logic, physics, and emotional truths. Part 7. The Architecture of Inner World, Sir. Dreams serve as perhaps the most mysterious theater of the human mind, a nightly journey into landscapes that defy the laws of physics yet feel utterly real. When consciousness dims and the body enters its protective paralysis, something extraordinary unfolds. The dreaming mind doesn't simply replay the day's events like a broken recording. Instead, it becomes an active architect, constructing entire worlds from fragments of memory, pools of emotion, and threads of imagination woven together in ways that would be impossible in waking life. During REM sleep, the brain exhibits activity patterns nearly as intense as those found in full consciousness, yet operates under a completely different set of rules. Logic bends. Time flows backward and forward without warning. You might find yourself speaking fluent languages you've never learned, or walking through childhood homes that morph into alien landscapes mid-step. The dreaming mind doesn't question these impossibilities. It accepts them as naturally as breathing, because in the realm of dreams, the usual gatekeepers of reason have stepped aside. What emerges from this neurological theater is nothing short of remarkable. Dreams reveal the mind's capacity for pure creativity, unbound by the constraints of physics or social convention. They demonstrate how consciousness can construct entire realities from nothing more than electrical impulses and chemical cascades. In dreams, the mind becomes both author and audience, director and actor, creating immersive experiences that can feel more vivid and emotionally resonant than many waking moments. The dreaming mind also serves as an emotional laboratory, a safe space where the psyche can process experiences too complex or overwhelming for conscious analysis. Anxieties transform into chase sequences. Unresolved conflicts play out through symbolic narratives. The mind rehearses possible futures and revisits past traumas, not through direct replay, but through the indirect language of metaphor and symbol. A dream about flying might represent a yearning for freedom. A recurring nightmare about being trapped could reflect feelings of powerlessness in waking life. But dreams do more than process emotion. They reveal the mind's remarkable capacity for integration. Information from vastly different domains can collide and combine in dreams, leading to creative insights that might never emerge during linear, logical thinking. The chemist who dreams of a snake eating its own tail and awakens to understand the structure of benzene. The musician who hears melodies in dreams that become masterpieces upon waking. These aren't mere coincidences, but examples of the dreaming mind's unique ability to make connections across disparate fields of knowledge. Perhaps most intriguingly, dreams offer glimpses into the fluid nature of identity itself. In dreams, you might be yourself but different, or someone else entirely, yet the experience still feels authentically yours. You can observe yourself from outside, speak with deceased relatives, or exist as multiple people simultaneously. These experiences suggest that the sense of self we take for granted in waking life is far more malleable than we typically imagine. The dreaming mind also demonstrates consciousness's relationship with time in ways that challenge our everyday understanding. A dream that feels like it lasts for hours might occur in the span of minutes. Past, present, and future can exist simultaneously within a single dream narrative. You might dream of events that haven't happened yet but feel like memories, or encounter people from your past who possess knowledge they couldn't have had when you knew them. This temporal fluidity suggests that consciousness doesn't simply move through time, but actively constructs its experience of temporality. Even the phenomenon of lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware they're dreaming while remaining asleep, reveals profound insights about consciousness itself. In lucid dreams, awareness can split into multiple levels. Part of you knows you're dreaming, while another part remains immersed in the dream narrative. You can observe your own mental processes while simultaneously participating in them. This recursive awareness, consciousness examining itself within an altered state, offers unique windows into the nature of self-reflection and metacognition. The fact that dreams occur across species suggests they serve fundamental biological and psychological functions that extend far beyond human experience. From the twitching paws of sleeping dogs to the complex vocalizations of dreaming birds, the dreaming state appears to be an ancient and essential feature of consciousness. This universality implies that dreams aren't mere byproducts of neural activity, but serve crucial roles in memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and perhaps even the maintenance of consciousness itself. Yet dreams also highlight the profound privacy of inner experience. No matter how vividly you describe a dream, the actual experience remains entirely yours. Others can hear your words, analyze the symbols, and offer interpretations, but they can never truly enter the dream space you inhabited. This privacy of dream experience mirrors the broader mystery of consciousness itself, the irreducible subjectivity that makes each mind a universe unto itself. The dreaming mind ultimately reveals consciousness as something far more dynamic and creative than our waking experience might suggest. It shows us that the mind doesn't simply process reality, but actively constructs it, moment by moment, thought by thought, dream by dream. In dreams, we glimpse the mind's true nature as a creative force, an architect of experience, a storyteller that weaves meaning from the raw materials of memory and imagination. When we examine the dreaming mind closely, we begin to understand that consciousness isn't a spotlight illuminating an external world, but a generative process that creates the very experience of world and self. Dreams offer us a laboratory for studying this process in its purest form, free from the constraints of sensory input and logical necessity. Dreams emerge from the quiet spaces between waking and sleep, where the mind releases its grip on linear time and logical structure. You close your eyes, and suddenly you're elsewhere, elsewhen, often else. Who? The familiar laws of physics bend. Gravity becomes optional. The dead speak. The impossible feels perfectly natural. And in the morning, you wake with fragments of a world that felt completely real, but follows no rules you recognize. What you experienced during those hours of sleep wasn't random neural noise or meaningless brain maintenance. Dreams represent one of the most sophisticated and mysterious functions of consciousness. They reveal the mind's extraordinary capacity to generate entire realities from nothing but memory, emotion, and the endless creative potential locked within neural networks. During REM sleep, your brain becomes almost as active as when you're awake. Blood flow increases. Neurons fire in complex patterns, but your body remains paralyzed, locked in place while your mind travels to impossible destinations. This isn't a malfunction, it's a feature. Your brain has evolved sophisticated mechanisms to separate the dream world from the physical world, allowing you to experience the most vivid adventures without moving a muscle. But dreams aren't just entertainment. They serve crucial functions that we're only beginning to understand. Memory consolidation happens during sleep, where the brain sorts through the day's experiences, deciding what to keep, what to discard, and how to integrate new information with existing knowledge. Dreams may be the theater where this process plays out, where memories are rehearsed, recombined, and filed away. Emotional processing also occurs during dream states. The events that disturb you during the day often reappear in dreams, sometimes directly, sometimes symbolically transformed. Your mind works through fears, desires, conflicts, and unresolved tensions while you sleep. Dreams become a safe space to experience emotions fully without real-world consequences. The content of dreams draws from your entire life history, but reorganizes it in ways that conscious thought rarely attempts. Childhood friends appear in current contexts. Dead relatives offer advice. You might find yourself in your elementary school, but as your current age, or in your current job, but with the anxiety of being unprepared for a test. Time collapses. Identity becomes fluid. The normal boundaries that structure waking experience dissolve. What's remarkable is how the dreaming mind accepts these impossibilities without question. The dreaming consciousness operates under different rules, where internal consistency matters less than emotional truth. The dream feels real because the emotions it generates are real. Fear, joy, love, loss, all experienced with the same intensity as waking emotions. Some people report lucid dreams, where they become aware they're dreaming while still inside the dream. These experiences reveal something profound about consciousness itself. You can be simultaneously the dreamer and the character in the dream, the author and the audience, the creator and the created. Lucid dreamers sometimes learn to control their dreams, flying at will, summoning desired people or places, exploring the landscape of pure imagination. But even in non-lucid dreams, the mind demonstrates incredible creativity. Where else can you experience impossible architectures, meet people who never existed, solve problems in ways that defy logic, but somehow make perfect sense within the dream's context? Dreams reveal that consciousness is not bound by the constraints of physical reality. The mind is capable of generating experiences that are completely novel, completely unconstrained by what's possible in the waking world. Scientists have found that different sleep stages produce different types of dreams. REM dreams tend to be vivid, emotional, and bizarre. Non-REM dreams are often more mundane, more like everyday thoughts. But throughout the night, your mind cycles through these different states, each serving different functions, each contributing to the overall maintenance and development of consciousness. Dreams also reveal the social nature of the mind. Many dreams involve other people, often people who are important to you. You might dream of conversations that never happened, conflicts that never occurred, reconciliations that you long for in waking life. Dreams become a space where relationships continue beyond their physical limits, where you can interact with people who are distant, dead, or estranged. The universality of dreaming across cultures suggests it serves fundamental biological and psychological functions. Every human society has developed systems for interpreting dreams, recognizing their significance even when their mechanisms remained mysterious. Dreams have inspired art, literature, scientific discoveries, and spiritual practices throughout human history. What dreams reveal about the nature of consciousness is profound. They show that the mind is not passive, not simply a receiver of external stimuli. The mind is an active creator, capable of generating rich, complex, meaningful experiences entirely from internal resources. Dreams demonstrate that consciousness is fundamentally creative, that the capacity for imagination and narrative is built into the basic architecture of awareness. As you drift towards sleep, your conscious mind begins to release its hold on logic, sequence, and possibility. the deeper structures of the mind take over, weaving together fragments of memory, emotion, and desire into stories that your sleeping self will experience as completely real. In dreams, you become both the storyteller and the story, the director and the star, the creator and the creation. And perhaps that's the deepest truth dreams reveal about consciousness, that the boundary between reality and imagination is more fluid than we usually recognize, that the mind's capacity to create meaningful experience is not limited by external circumstances. Part 9. The Invisible Architecture of Experience. Close your eyes for a moment and notice something extraordinary happening. Even in darkness, your mind continues to construct a world. You feel the weight of your body, the temperature of the air, the rhythm of your breath. Thoughts arise unbidden. Memories surface without invitation, and somewhere in that internal space, you remain present, aware, witnessing it all. This is the invisible architecture of experience, the scaffolding upon which every moment of consciousness is built. And tonight, as you drift toward sleep, we'll explore how this architecture operates, how it shapes every perception, every memory, every dream that flows through the theater of your mind. Your brain doesn't simply receive reality like a passive recording device. It actively constructs your experience moment by moment, weaving together sensation, memory, expectation, and emotion into the seamless tapestry you call now. This construction happens so smoothly, so automatically, that you rarely notice the seams. But they're there, hidden beneath the surface of awareness, working tirelessly to maintain the illusion that experience flows unbroken from world to mind. Consider the simple act of seeing. Light enters your eyes, strikes your retina, and triggers electrical impulses that race along neural pathways toward your brain. But what you see, the rich visual world of colors and shapes and depth, exists nowhere in those electrical signals. Your brain builds it, painting perception from the raw data of photons and frequencies. The redness of red, the warmth of sunlight, the three-dimensional space you navigate so effortlessly, these are not features of the external world. They are creations of your mind, interpretations layered onto the fundamental information your senses provide. This interpretive process extends far beyond vision. Every sense you possess, every feeling you experience, every thought that crosses your awareness, emerges from this same constructive process. Your brain doesn't just process information, it creates experience. And this creation happens according to rules, patterns, and constraints that operate mostly outside your conscious control. You are not the author of your perceptions. You are their audience, watching as your mind performs its remarkable magic trick of turning neural activity into felt reality. The architecture of experience is built from several fundamental components. First is attention, the spotlight of consciousness that illuminates some aspects of your internal and external environment, while leaving others in shadow. Attention is not passive. It actively shapes what becomes part of your experience and what remains unconscious. What you attend to becomes vivid, detailed, memorable. What falls outside attention's beam fades into the background, processed but not experienced as fully real. But attention itself is guided by deeper systems, emotional networks that constantly evaluate the significance of incoming information. Fear sharpens attention toward potential threats. Desire focuses it on opportunities for reward. Curiosity draws it toward the novel and unexpected. These emotional systems don't just color your experience, they determine its very structure, deciding what deserves the precious resource of conscious awareness. Memory adds another layer to this architecture. Every moment of experience is filtered through the vast library of your past. Current perceptions are compared against stored patterns, labeled according to previous encounters, interpreted through the lens of accumulated knowledge. You don't see a chair. You see an object that matches your learned category of chairness, complete with expectations about its function, its solidity, its place in the world. Memory doesn't just inform experience, it shapes it at the most basic level. Then there's prediction, perhaps the most crucial component of all. Your brain is not content to simply react to the world as it unfolds. It constantly generates expectations about what will happen next, what word will follow in a sentence, what sensation will arise when you reach for an object, what emotion will emerge in response to a familiar face. These predictions don't wait for confirmation. They become part of your experience immediately, creating a world that feels continuous and coherent, even when sensory input is fragmentary or delayed. This predictive processing creates one of the most remarkable features of consciousness, the sense that you are experiencing the present moment. But neuroscience reveals that what you call now is actually a construction, a synthesis of recent sensory input, current predictions, and ongoing neural processing. The present moment you experience happened, in neural terms, several milliseconds ago. You live in a carefully crafted illusion of immediacy, a present that is always slightly behind the actual flow of time. The implications of this are profound. If your experience is constructed rather than received, then the world you inhabit is as much a creation of your mind as it is a reflection of external reality. The colors you see, the emotions you feel, the thoughts that seem to arise spontaneously, all emerge from neural processes that operate according to their own logic, their own constraints, their own hidden agenda. You are not living in the world as it is. You are living in your brain's model of the world, a model optimized not for accuracy, but for survival, not for truth, but for functionality. This realization can be unsettling. It suggests that everything you take to be most real, most immediate, most undeniably true about your experience is actually a sophisticated construction, a virtual reality generated by biological processes you can never directly access. The self that seems to be reading these words, the visual field that seems to stretch out before your eyes, the stream of thoughts that seems to flow through your awareness, all of these are products of neural activity, patterns of electrical and chemical signaling that somehow give rise to the rich phenomenology of consciousness. But this construction is not arbitrary. It follows rules, patterns that have been shaped by millions of years of evolution. The architecture of experience is not random. It is exquisitely designed to extract meaningful information from the environment, to detect opportunities and threats, to navigate social relationships, to maintain the coherent sense of self that allows you to function as an integrated organism. Your brain doesn't construct experience carelessly. It builds it according to principles that have proven their worth across countless generations. Understanding this architecture doesn't diminish the reality of your experience. It deepens it. When you realize that every moment of consciousness is an achievement, a successful coordination of billions of neurons working together to create something that transcends their individual activity, experience becomes more remarkable, not less. The fact that matter can organize itself in such a way that it becomes aware, that it can model reality and reflect on its own existence, represents one of the most extraordinary developments in the known universe. As you prepare for sleep, this understanding can transform your relationship with the twilight states of consciousness. The hypnagogic experiences that arise as you drift toward sleep, the strange sensations and fleeting images and fragments of thought, these are not random neural noise. They are glimpses into the ordinary process of experience construction, moments when the usual constraints relax and you can observe the mind's creative process more directly. In dreams, this architecture operates with even greater freedom. Released from the constraints of sensory input, your brain constructs entire worlds from memory and emotion and random neural activity. The impossible narratives of dreams, the fluid identities and shifting landscapes and violations of physical law, these reveal the extraordinary creativity that underlies all experience. Every night, your mind demonstrates its capacity to build reality from nothing more than its own activity. But even in waking consciousness, this creativity never stops. Every perception is a small act of creation. Every memory is a reconstruction. Every thought is an emergence. You are not a passive observer of a pre-given world. You are an active participant in the ongoing creation of experience. even if that participation happens mostly outside your conscious control. This perspective offers a different way of relating to the contents of consciousness. Instead of taking thoughts and emotions and sensations as fixed facts about reality, you can recognize them as constructions, interpretations, models that your brain generates in its ongoing attempt to make sense of existence. This doesn't make them less real or less important, but it does make them more fluid, more open to influence and change. When you understand that experience is constructed, you begin to see that it can be reconstructed. The patterns of attention that shape your awareness, the emotional responses that color your perceptions, the predictions that frame your expectations, all of these can be influenced through intention and practice. Meditation, therapy, mindfulness, even simple changes in perspective can alter the architecture of experience, creating new possibilities for how consciousness unfolds. The invisible architecture of experience operates in the space between stimulus and response, between world and awareness, between the objective and the subjective. It is the bridge that connects neural activity to felt reality, that transforms the mechanical processes of the brain into the warm, immediate, undeniably real texture of consciousness. And recognizing this architecture, appreciating its complexity and creativity and fundamental mystery, offers a profound shift in how you understand yourself and your place in the world. Tonight, as sleep approaches and the boundaries of ordinary experience begin to soften, you have the opportunity to observe this architecture more directly. In the liminal space between waking and dreaming, the mind's constructive processes become more visible. You might notice how thoughts arise without your choosing them, how images form and dissolve without apparent cause, how the sense of self fluctuates and transforms. These are not distortions of normal consciousness. They are revelations of how consciousness always works, glimpses into the invisible architecture that underlies every moment of your existence. And in recognizing this architecture, in appreciating the extraordinary creativity and complexity that underlies even the simplest experience, you touch something profound about the nature of mind itself. You are not simply a biological machine processing information. You are a conscious being, capable of experience, of reflection, of wonder at your own existence. The architecture of experience is not just a neural process. It is the foundation of everything that makes life meaningful, everything that transforms mere existence into the rich, complex, beautiful phenomenon of being aware. As consciousness fades into sleep, this architecture continues its work, weaving dreams from memory and emotion, constructing new realities from the fragments of the day. And in the morning, when awareness returns, it will begin again the remarkable task of building experience from neural activity, creating the world you inhabit moment by moment. As we descend deeper into the labyrinth of human experience, we arrive at a truth that sits quietly at the edge of understanding. The mind, for all its complexity and wonder, may be operating on principles so fundamental that they shape not just thought, but the very fabric of how reality unfolds around us. This is where our journey through consciousness leads us to one of the most profound discoveries of our time, that what you call your inner world may not be as inner as you think. Consider this carefully. Your brain processes roughly 11 million bits of information every second, yet you're consciously aware of perhaps 40. What happens to the rest? It doesn't simply disappear. It settles into the vast unconscious architecture that governs everything from your heartbeat to your hunches, from your dreams to your deepest fears. This hidden realm operates like a shadow government, making decisions, forming preferences, and shaping behavior long before your conscious mind ever gets involved. But here's where it becomes truly mysterious. This unconscious processing doesn't just influence you, it influences how you perceive reality itself. Your brain is constantly predicting what should happen next, filling in gaps, smoothing over inconsistencies, and presenting you with a cleaned-up version of existence. You think you're experiencing the world directly, but you're actually living inside a sophisticated simulation, one that your own mind has constructed from fragments of sensation, memory, and expectation. This simulation is so seamless that you never notice the editing. When you look at a face, your brain doesn't just process the visual data. It reads emotion, predicts intention, recalls similar faces from memory, and delivers a complete narrative about who this person might be and how you should respond to them. All of this happens in milliseconds, beneath the threshold of awareness. You think you're simply seeing someone, but you're actually experiencing the output of an incredibly complex interpretive system. And this system, this unconscious architecture of mind, operates according to principles that mirror the deepest laws of physics: information theory, entropy, quantum mechanics. The same patterns that govern stars and galaxies also govern thoughts and dreams. Your mind doesn't just exist in the universe, it reflects the universe's fundamental structure. The way you process information, the way memories form and decay, the way attention flows like water finding its level. All of this echoes the mathematics that underlies reality itself. But perhaps the most profound insight is this: the unconscious mind doesn't just process information passively. It shapes what information becomes available to process. Through selective attention, through emotional weighting, through the very structure of perception itself, your unconscious mind curates reality. It decides what gets noticed, what gets remembered, what gets felt. In a very real sense, it participates in creating the world you inhabit. This is why two people can walk through the same room and have completely different experiences. Their unconscious minds are running different programs, applying different filters, constructing different versions of the same underlying reality. What you call objective truth becomes something much more fluid, much more participatory. Not because facts don't exist, but because the mind that perceives facts is always, inevitably, shaping them in the act of perception. This unconscious shaping extends even to your sense of self. The feeling of being a continuous, unified person is itself a construction, a story your mind tells to create coherence from the chaos of moment-to-moment experience. You are not the same person you were 7 years ago, not just mentally or emotionally, but literally. Nearly every cell in your body has been replaced, yet something maintains the thread of identity, the sense of being you. That something is the unconscious mind, weaving new experiences into old patterns, updating the self-story while preserving its essential continuity. And this process of construction never stops. Right now, as you process these words, your unconscious mind is deciding how they fit into your existing worldview. It's determining what resonates, what resists, what gets remembered, what gets forgotten. It's not a passive receiver of information, but an active interpreter, a collaborative author of your ongoing experience. This is the final frontier of understanding consciousness, not just what the mind does, but how it participates in the fundamental unfolding of reality itself. How awareness and cosmos dance together, each shaping the other in ways we're only beginning to comprehend. The mind doesn't just observe the universe. In some deep sense, it helps to create the version of the universe that gets experienced. As you drift toward sleep tonight, remember this: the boundary between inner and outer, between mind and world, between self and cosmos, is far more permeable than you ever imagined. You are not separate from the reality you perceive. You are part of its ongoing creation, a conscious participant in the universe's attempt to understand itself. And in that participation, in that eternal dance between awareness and existence, lies perhaps the deepest mystery of all. Not what the mind is, but what it makes possible. Not how consciousness works, but what it reveals about the nature of being itself. The unconscious mind, vast and quiet, continues its work beneath the surface of thought, processing, integrating, dreaming, creating, building the world you wake up to, one unconscious decision at a time. And in that endless construction lies both the limit and the liberation of human experience. As the journey through the architecture of consciousness draws to a close, we arrive at perhaps the most profound realization of all. The mind you have been exploring, the very instrument through which you have contemplated these mysteries, is itself the most extraordinary phenomenon in the known universe. Not because it is perfect, but because it is aware of its own imperfection. Not because it knows everything, but because it knows that it doesn't know everything. Consider this final paradox. Every insight shared in this exploration, every question raised about consciousness, memory, perception, and reality, has been filtered through the very system we have been examining. The mind studying itself, awareness reflecting on awareness, consciousness contemplating consciousness. It is like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror, or attempting to lift yourself by pulling on your own bootstraps. And yet, somehow, through this seemingly impossible task, understanding emerges. The mind reveals itself to be not a thing, but a process. Not a place, but a happening. Not a solid foundation, but a flowing river of experience that somehow maintains the illusion of being a stable shore. You are not a passenger riding inside your head. You are the entire journey itself, the path and the walker, the question and the questioner, all at once. What makes this even more remarkable is that the mind is simultaneously ancient and utterly unique. The basic architecture of consciousness, the ability to feel, to remember, to anticipate, connects you to every other aware being that has ever existed. The neurons firing in your brain right now follow patterns laid down millions of years ago. The emotions you feel echo through evolutionary time. The very capacity to wonder links you to the first mind that ever looked up at the stars and asked why. Yet your particular configuration of awareness, the specific way your mind organizes experience, interprets reality, and constructs meaning, has never existed before and will never exist again. You are both utterly connected to the universal story of consciousness and completely singular in your expression of it. The mind constructs reality through constant prediction and correction. Your brain is not passively receiving the world like a camera recording footage. It is actively generating your experience moment by moment, filling in gaps, making assumptions, creating coherence from chaos. The colors you see, the sounds you hear, the sense of your own continuous identity, all of these are sophisticated constructions built by neural networks that learned their craft through eons of trial and error. This means that the reality you inhabit is simultaneously real and constructed, objective and subjective, shared and private. You live in a world that exists independently of your mind, but you can only access that world through the particular lens of your consciousness. Every sunset you've watched, every conversation you've had, every moment of joy or sorrow has been a collaboration between the universe as it is and your mind as it processes what is into what seems to be. Perhaps most profound of all is the realization that consciousness appears to be the universe's way of experiencing itself. Through the emergence of minds, matter became aware of matter, space became conscious of space, time became capable of remembering its own passage. In your awareness, the cosmos gains the ability to reflect on its own existence, to ask questions about its origins and destiny, to find beauty in its own patterns. This places an extraordinary responsibility on conscious beings. You are not just observers of the universe. You are the universe observing itself. Your thoughts, your choices, your capacity for compassion and creativity, these are not separate from the cosmic story. They are chapters in it, expressions of the deepest tendency of reality itself toward complexity, beauty, and understanding. The mind's greatest limitation may also be its greatest gift, because consciousness can never step outside itself to see the full picture, because awareness is always embedded within the very reality it seeks to understand. Mystery remains, not as a failure of knowledge, but as an invitation to wonder, not as a problem to be solved, but as a depth to be explored. Every answer the mind discovers opens new questions. Every horizon reached reveals new horizons beyond. This is not a bug in the system of consciousness. It is the feature that keeps existence dynamic, that ensures there will always be more to explore, more to understand, more to become. As you drift toward sleep, carrying these reflections with you into the realm of dreams, remember that even in unconsciousness, the miracle continues. Your mind will spend the night sorting, integrating, creating new connections between ideas, emotions, and memories. Dreams will arise spontaneously, entire worlds generated from the creative depths of neural activity. Even in sleep, consciousness does not truly disappear. It simply changes its mode of operation, exploring inner landscapes as vast and mysterious as any external terrain. The mind that began this journey with you is not the same mind that ends it. Through the very act of contemplating consciousness, awareness has been altered, expanded, deepened. New neural pathways have formed. Fresh insights have taken root. The architecture of understanding has been subtly but permanently restructured. This is perhaps the most beautiful aspect of consciousness. It is not fixed, not static, not trapped within rigid boundaries. The mind is endlessly plastic, constantly evolving, perpetually capable of growth and transformation. Every moment of attention, every flash of insight, every choice to remain curious rather than settle for easy answers, reshapes the very foundation of who you are. In the end, the exploration of consciousness reveals that you are not separate from the universe you inhabit. You are not an isolated island of awareness in an ocean of unconscious matter. You are a wave in the ocean of existence itself, temporarily organized into this particular pattern of experience, this unique perspective on reality, this singular expression of the cosmic tendency toward awareness and understanding. The mind is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Not a machine to be understood, but a process to be experienced. Not a thing you possess, but a happening you participate in. As consciousness settles into the rhythm of approaching sleep, as thoughts slow and awareness prepares to transform once again into the strange theater of dreams, one truth remains constant. You are both the questioner and the questioned, the observer and the observed. The mind contemplating itself and the universe becoming aware of its own magnificent, mysterious, ever-unfolding nature. In your consciousness, existence celebrates its own inexplicable gift of being able to experience, to wonder, and to know that it exists at all.